Hi, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on our public safety tips for older adults in the community. I will come back shortly, rather, and join. So we are letting everyone who registered come in as attendees. We'll be back shortly. Thank you. Hello, and welcome again, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. The National Caucus and Center on Black Aging, NCBA, and the Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C., for our webinar on public safety tips for older adults in the community. Our presenter today is Officer Muhammad Lewis. Officer Lewis has been with the department for 5 years. He works with the Community Outreach Unit of the 1st District Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C., where the focus is all community engagement, activity, safety meetings, sharing safety tips, and increasing public knowledge overall for safety. So welcome, Officer Lewis. We thank you for joining us today. The floor is all yours. So glad to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello and good afternoon, everybody. As mentioned, I'm Officer Muhammad Lewis with the Metropolitan Police Department, Washington, D.C. And today I'm with you guys to talk about safety and awareness, especially during this holiday season, and to also share other safety and awareness tips that you can use all throughout your everyday life. So again, thank you all for having me today, and I hope that you all will be able to take a lot away from this presentation this morning. So one of the first areas I would like to talk about is the telephone scams. In today's day and age, You get constant robocalls, calls from individuals portraying themselves as the IRS or any other government agencies or utility companies. And really, just first and foremost, you know, don't ever hesitate to question those phone calls, right? Because these individuals are calling us, and you have every right to question who they are. Are they actually who they say they are? But most importantly, during those calls, you want to never share any of your personal information. And a lot of the times they'll lead off by stating, for example, with the IRS calls, they'll say, I'm calling from the IRS. I'm agent, Tom Johnson, and my agent number is 12345. I'm calling today because you have an outstanding tax bill. And if you don't pay it immediately, you'll be arrested. And when it comes to dealing with, especially government agencies, many of the times they are not doing business over phone calls. If you ever have an issue with the IRS, if that's something anybody has experienced, they send out everything via mail. You'll get a letter in your inbox, or I'm sorry, in your mailbox at home, stating that, you need to get in contact with the IRS for whatever matter or issue that may be. So that's one. And then another area or something that sometimes happens is individuals maybe contacting you and wanting to portray themselves as law enforcement. And when it comes to dealing with law enforcement, we're not going to call you if it's something major or issue going on and you need to be notified. Right, there's ways they can make contact, and if they are actual law enforcement and they are contact you over the phone, we'll do a follow-up, to really ensure or let you know that we actually are who we say we are. But unless you haven't had any contact with law enforcement, then there's not many instances where a law enforcement officer or agent will be contacting you out of the blue if you haven't had any contact with law enforcement. So now, as I mentioned, when you do get these telephone scams, safeguard your personal information. Don't share no social security numbers, no card information over the phone, depending on the type of phone, or if it's a landline, right? If it's a cell phone, you can hang up. There's an option where you can block those numbers that call from these scam lines. And there's also ways that, you can go about reporting those numbers. And most importantly, if you get a call from a number that you don't know, especially, depending on where you live. So I'll get scam calls sometimes and it'll say it's from Spokane, Washington. I don't have any family, nor friends, nor anybody in Washington. So if that's a call that I missed from Washington State across the country, I'm not calling back. I'm not looking to see who it was because I don't know anybody there. And more than likely, it's an unwarranted scam phone call. But the biggest thing to really stress in this area is knowing just never share your information. Let's not just accept somebody is who they are over the phone. They're claiming to be an agent of the government or utility company officer. We're not just going to take that at face value and feel okay to share with them any important information. So now, as I move forward to the next slide, when it comes to financial scams, this is something that tends to happen a lot to the older community, where these scammers have gotten quite savvy with how they want to go about taking funds from individuals. So some that I've seen and know about are individuals calling to be, whether they're law enforcement or IRS agents. They'll make a call and say that you have a high tax debt. It needs to be taken care of immediately. They'll instruct you to either go to the bank and take out physical cash, and claiming that once you do that, to call them back and they'll meet you at a specific location. Or they'll sometimes try to, get your information over the phone and do it that way. I could have a personal story to share on this one. My grandmother was affected by a financial scam. She received a call from somebody portraying to be from Apple and stating that her MacBook laptop was having some issues and they needed to do something to fix it all up. She was sent the link via her email, and the moment she clicked that link, whoever on the other side had access to control her whole entire laptop. So they were instructing to, make sure you log into your bank and you have to make this payment. and she ended up losing a few $1,000s. So they do get pretty savvy on how they want to go about that. And again, it never hurts to triple verify who someone is actually saying they are, whoever they are portraying to be, and being cautious of text messages, right? Clicking links via text messages, or in emails you might receive, clicking on links via emails from somebody stating to be someone who they're not. And when it comes, because of the high use of technology, if anybody has an iPhone or Android, you can sometimes get random text messages stating that your package from the postal service is being held unless you verify the address by clicking this link. And it sounds like it's legit, but we don't want to ever click those links, whether it's a text message or email, because the what can then happen to our phones from there could cause more issues. Um, and really just regularly staying on top of your accounts, knowing what money you have coming in or what money you have going out, because even if you don't, receive a phone call of somebody asking to get money, or for you to send them money, there's machines out there that can make clones of our credit or debit cards. So if you're shopping online, or if you're using your debit card at sometimes a non-bank ATM, or even just in the store, there's ways individuals can try to clone our credit cards. So monitoring your bank activity, and looking over to make sure you don't see any suspicious charges, because how these scammers will sometimes do is it'll start off with a small charge of $20 from a restaurant that you have no idea where it is. And then once that one goes through, they'll then try later on to make a much larger purchase. And we want to make sure that whoever you do your financial banking with, you can get, whether it's text alerts, call alerts anytime purchases are going through, just so you can overall safeguard your information and really be prepared for that. Now that we're in holiday season, one of the big things is package safety and package thefts. Package theft is something that has hit everybody nationwide. So what companies have started doing, especially those who order from Amazon, you have those Amazon safety lockers, and that's a way where you can have your packages safely delivered to. You can pick them up at a time that's convenient for you, and it lessens the chance of that package being stolen. And for those of us who may not use Amazon, or aren't quite sure of how that exactly works, and you still want to get packages sent to your home, if you know you're not going to be home and there's a neighbor or somebody that you trust who can assist with that, that can be something where you could just phone a neighbor and saying, hey, I'm not home, but my package got delivered. Do you mind running next door to grab it for me, and I'll pick it up from you when I get home? The use of Ring and the Ring doorbell cameras is a way to monitor your deliveries and making sure nobody's coming on your porch to try to swipe your package. And most importantly, if whoever you're delivering from is able to allow you to schedule a delivery, that's something that's extremely helpful as well. So now you can pick a day and time that works best for you, so you can make sure your packages are being kept safe and safeguarded. Also, if you have family members who maybe participate in purchasing things from online marketplaces such as Facebook Marketplace and other platforms, sharing with them ways they can go about doing that safely. So one way would be, of course, never going to anyone's home to pick up an item. If you are going to choose a meeting place, you want to make sure that meeting place is somewhere in public with a lot of individuals around, or schedule that meeting place at your local police station, right? If this is going to be a transaction where I have to give somebody cash for the item that they're selling on this marketplace platform, I'll meet you in front of the police station, in the police station lobby. So that way I can ensure I'm not going to be scammed for whatever this item is. And I can do it in a way that I know it's going to keep myself safe. So overall, when it comes to the package safety, just having these tips to knowing how to go about these things in a safe way to reduce those chances of harm coming to whether it be us or our loved ones. And that can also go in alignment with when you're out shopping. If anybody likes to do their shopping in person, you don't want to walk around a mall or any type of shopping center with hands full of bags. Can I consolidate these bags? Do I have maybe t-shirts that can go inside this box, this bag with the shoes? So now when I have to go walk to my car, I'm only walking to my car with 2 bags in comparison to 5 or 6, because I don't want to look or create the appearance that I have so many different things. And I want to lessen the chance of trying to make myself a target to somebody who may be lurking around watching from behind the scenes, to want to prey on individuals as they're out doing their holiday shopping. So all these different tips and tricks, really do help in these types of situations. um, and then finally, really just overall, we want to touch base on personal safety overall, right? What are some things that we can do just to keep ourselves safe, whether it's holiday season or any other time of the year as I'm out and about? And the biggest and number one thing, and we may hear it and see it all the time, but it actually does help. If you see something, say something. There are times where we may witness something and we just automatically think, oh, well, I'm sure somebody's going to call the police. So I'm sure, somebody is going to take note of that. But that really does help, especially if it's something criminal where, excuse me, I had a question. Okay. Especially in those cases where, law enforcement would never ask anybody to intervene on our behalf. But if you can take note from a safe distance, or you can call in 911 whenever it's safe to do so, that's something that's extremely helpful, right? Because many of times, you'd be surprised how things may take place or things may go on, and numerous people may never report it or ever call it in. So it really is important that if you do see something, to not hesitate and to make your local law enforcement aware wherever it is that you may live. And another tip for, personal safety is just being cautious and aware of your surroundings. And essentially, one of the best ways to do that is just being aware of your environment. That doesn't mean that you have to be extremely skilled or, former military and law enforcement to be aware of your environment and your surroundings. And an example of that is if there's a place that you go on a frequent basis. So, for example, we may all do our grocery shopping in person at the same store. As many times as I visit this store, am I aware of, where the nearest emergency exit might be in the event something were to happen? Am I cautious of these things as I'm going through this place that I visit regularly? And most important, just noticing when something may just be out of place or doesn't seem right. Naturally, as humans, we just get that feeling when we're going someplace or we're doing something and just something doesn't feel right. And don't fight yourself to go against that gut feeling, because that gut feeling is telling you something like, hey, I just have this feeling, I come here often, but today something really feels out of place. So, those are small ways you can be cautious and aware of your surroundings. um one of the biggest things too is, if those of us who drive, when we get to where we get into, let's not idle in the car for too long. Let's not sit there in our vehicles and, I want to now look for my keys or look for something or rummage through looking for something. Because something that we've seen an increase over the year is with vehicle thefts. And that moment I'm sitting in my vehicle, maybe I'm looking for something or something dropped between the seat, right? That's the opportunity for somebody to try to take advantage or, victimize us in that particular situation. So if I know I'm just leaving the grocery store and I'm going home, I want to already have in my mind, okay, my keys are here, easily accessible. I'm going to stop. I'm going to park my car. I have everything ready to go. I'm going to grab my items, lock my car, and head inside the house. Or if it's one of those moments where you have to unload a lot of groceries, right? Do I have somebody that can assist me? Am I pulling directly in my driveway? Am I leaving my car running? Those are things you want to be mindful of, especially with maybe leaving vehicles running. That's an opportunity, for somebody to try to take advantage and take our car. So these are things of that sort, depending on where you may live. If it's not a suburban area and it's an urban area, and you have to park your vehicle on the street, maybe walk a couple blocks, or you're not directly in front of your home. What does that look like? Am I coming home, especially now in the winter, it gets dark around 4:30, 5 o'clock? Am I coming home and it's pretty dark out? Or as I'm going to a parking space, I notice somebody trying to hide back in the shadows. Those are things and triggers you want to look for and be alert for, because why is this individual, staying back in the shadows? What exactly are they looking to do? So small things like that to help with our overall awareness, and really, helping each other out. If you lived with a loved one or somebody who you care for, knowing I'm coming home a little bit later, hey, I'm be home in about 5 minutes, do you mind waiting by the door, and I'll be parking, and that way you can keep an eye on me as I'm coming in the home. Or if you're meeting with somebody at a location, hey, I'll be there shortly, do you mind just kind of standing by and be on the lookout for where I come, right? Let's help each other out, friends, those we love. We can really all do these things. We'll keep ourselves safe, we'll keep others safe, who we care for. And these are just things that we can use on a regular basis. As I mentioned earlier, these are safety tips that you don't just have to use one time of the year, only during holiday season. These are things that you can begin to practice on a regular basis, as you do your life's daily activities. I know one question we get asked a lot about personal safety is the use of tasers and pepper sprays. Now, depending on where you may reside, the rules on that are going to be different. But for anyone in attendance who lives in Washington, D.C., as long as you're 18 or older, you're allowed to legally have pepper spray, and you're allowed to legally have a taser. The only rules with it, you're not allowed to take them into government buildings. So for anybody who may have a question about, personal safety devices, I just recommend looking into your local laws about that. Many places do allow it, but again, just double check to make sure and get information on additional requirements behind that. Oh, so yeah, so different ways to get tips and resources. So in DC, the police stations offer, safety meetings to the community. So there's different community safety meetings that you can attend. And in these meetings, you'll get information about not only safety tips, but that's the opportunity for community members to ask questions or share concerns about what they see going on in their neighborhoods. So wherever you live, state, city, town, many law enforcement departments offer meetings as such. So one of the things I would recommend is finding out how your local law enforcement agency goes about offering these meetings. And I'm a big component of individuals attending those meetings. That's your way of staying up to date, knowing what's going on in your neighborhood. And that's also the opportunity for residents and anybody to share their concerns. Because believe it or not, unsafe environments can lead to things happening. And what I mean by unsafe environment is, if all of a sudden where you live, all your street lights are out, that now has created an unsafe environment, because now our street is dark. We still have to come home, or whether leave our homes early in the morning. We don't want to leave out into a extremely dark street. I can't clearly see, but a few feet down. So that's an unsafe environment that can lead something else to happening. So knowing how or who to report such issues to, you can find that out by working with, your local law enforcement or any other local government agencies, and being able to have that platform to share concerns about what you see, because officers can't be everywhere all at once. And working with the residents who live in the neighborhoods, right? It's a partnership. Where you live, you're able to, what's going on. We know our neighbors. We know who comes and goes on a regular basis, even to the point where we know who our local mail delivery person is. So we know when something isn't right within our neighborhoods, and being able to share the times where things are out of the ordinary with your law enforcement, so they can have that on their radar and be able to do things on their ends. But most importantly, it's a opportunity for you to stay up to date. There's, when it comes to safety or things that go on, scams change from how people are trying to pull off financial scams or any other type of scams. These things change as time goes on. So we want to try to keep up to date as possible with being in attendance for things as such to really help us keep ourselves and our family safe. And most importantly, communicating with our loved ones and those who may care for us, right? If you ever were to see one of those scam phone calls, having somebody that you can call and communicate that with and being able to help safeguard you because they care for you as well. And having that open line of communication is something that we want to do. And sometimes it may be difficult because as humans, we get naturally embarrassed. When that incident happened with my grandmother, it took her a while to come out and tell us, probably because she was going to feel embarrassed about it, but it just hurt us because it's like, dang, you should have just called us and we would have, helped you or prevented that from happening. So we just want to make sure we keep that open line of communication no matter what it is, because safety is key. And, doing whatever we can is what we want to make sure continues to happen as we go about so we can continue to enjoy our lives and doing everything that we do on a regular basis. So that's the last slide there. I will turn to my host. I don't know if you guys want to open for questions. So you guys
Yes.
let me know.
Yes, Officer Lewis, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and thank you for your service to the citizens of the District of Columbia and the DMV. So thank you again. I'm going to ask our audience to put their questions in the chat, and I'm going to turn on my camera here. We've got some terrific questions, but I'd like to kick us off, if I can, please. Something you said that is of interest to me. When you spoke to, or your slide presentation spoke to bank statements.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any guidance on receiving bank statements electronically versus the US mail? I know that's a preference, but given the high thefts with mailboxes these days,
Mm-hmm.
is there any law enforcement guidance you can give us around that?
Yeah. So I personally receive my statements via email. And that preference is going to be based upon where you live. So if you live in a facility like where I do, you have the mailbox or the mailroom area where it goes directly. You need a key to access it. But if you have a single family home, your mailbox is going to be out and pretty much accessible to the public. So I will say with that is one, those statements are going to come around the same time every year if you choose to elect to have them sent by mail. So that may be something that you want to keep in mind. And then there's also something that the post office offers. I can't remember the name of it, but you can see all your incoming mail in real time before it actually gets to you. So those are maybe some things to look into, because when it comes to actual mail theft of U.S. Postal Service mail, your local law enforcement might be the initial to respond, but the United States Postal Inspection officers are who will take over anything regarding actual mail theft itself.
Okay, thank you.
My
And
pleasure.
thank you. I'm going to turn to the chat a little bit here.
Okay.
First question reads, when I order DoorDash, the driver sometimes shows up with two people. Should I walk to the car and get my order, or should I cancel on the spot?
So in that, you can do one of two things. One, if I don't recommend you walk up to that car, as I mentioned earlier, if you have that feeling like, why is there two of them? You could ask them to leave it right at the doorstep and you can watch and wait for them to drive off. If you feel like that's not something you want to do, you want to cancel, by all means, you can go ahead and cancel that order. Many a times we might think that, I don't want to be rude or disrespectful, but at the end of the day, I'd rather not be a victim of a crime. And, if there's things I could do to prevent that, I definitely recommend you do those things, especially when it comes to the DoorDash deliveries. If they could just leave it in front of your doorstep, you could just wait a moment for them to go ahead and be gone and you can grab it. that's also an option. But if you feel like, hey, they're telling me to come to the car, one, why are they doing that? Should raise a red flag and raise question. And then, secondly, that's not something I would say, oh yeah, just go walk up to the car. No, I would just cancel the order and maybe try again or look for an alternative option.
Okay, thank you. Our next question asks, do malls offer escorts to cars, especially at night?
So that's something officers will do from time to time. Again, that's really going to be based on where you are and the volume of calls coming in to that particular police station or law enforcement agency. Just a quick insight. So here in Washington, D.C., 911 calls come in based on priority. So if that's something somebody did call and ask, but then they have higher priority calls coming in over that, that's a particular call that may be waiting for a while. And depending on what you have to do, you may not have that time to wait. But when it comes to safety, nobody's going to tell you, oh no, just figure it out on your own, because at the end of the day, we don't want anything to happen to the individuals of the communities that we serve.
Okay. And just to build on that a little bit, when we're speaking to safety, I know many of us ladies and gentlemen, we carry book bags and handbags, and they're big and bulky. We dig a lot. And I myself am guilty from time to time, but I also too have switched to a crossbody bag that I carry in the front of my person so that I don't have to dig. I have my Metro card and just stuff I need, so I'm not digging. Any advice on those crossbody bags? Are they a little safer, or are they the same when it comes to carrying a bag?
So I would say those would tend to be a little bit safer because they're closer to the body. When it comes to maybe a handbag or anything else, that's something somebody, especially a handbag, they can try to run by and snatch it off you. A book bag, depending on how large of it is, that's something somebody could just say, hey, take off the book bag right now. But the smaller crossbody satchel bags, one, because of their size, you have a lot less items in there. So the chances of an individual gaining something of value might be a lot lower than if you have a bigger handbag purse or you're carrying a larger items in a book bag. So for example, if I'm carrying a book bag, depending on where I'm coming from, there's a chance I have a tablet, a laptop in there, something more of higher value, and same thing with a bigger handbag purse. In a smaller satchel, you might just have a cell phone, a wallet. So for an individual looking to commit some sort of crime or criminal activity, a handbag might get you more luck than just a small little cross the body satchel bag. And depending on how you carry it, if somebody tried to reach and come in close proximity to you, that's another thing with the close body bag. That person will have to kind of really come into your personal space to even retrieve that bag.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. Going to the chat, it asks, do I call 311 to complete a police report about porch theft? And then my question is 311 a universal number to call? Or is that just relegated to the district?
So you have 311 here in Washington, D.C. Being originally from New York, that's something they have also in New York City. So depending on where you live, it's sometimes is a universal. If it's a more metropolitan area, they'll have their version of a 311. So speaking on that, if you're in DC, if you call 311, there will somewhat give you the runaround. To report that porch theft, you can call 911 and they can transfer you to our telephone reporting unit where they'll take that police report in regards to your porch theft. 311 is really more so for anything non-emergency. So that's what you would use to report potholes, street lighting is out. You'll use that line to report non-criminal or any other type of activity where you live.
Okay, all right. And then someone had a comment here, and I agree wholeheartedly. It says, when I come home, it's dark outside. And she sent a person saying, don't sit in your car. I have a tendency to sit in my car and talk on the phone. And cars slow down and watch, and they watch. And I have to stop this. And I think everybody is guilty of that, winding down their day. So, any advice to how we might not wind down our day in our cars?
Yes. So especially here in DC, where many people don't have garages or driveways, you're parking alongside that curve. And, as I mentioned, take that time to gather your stuff and kind of hurry up, or not hurry, but gather your stuff and move with a purpose to get to whatever location that you're looking to go. Because reason being, these vehicle crimes that are being committed, they somewhat have subsided a little bit, but they are still happening. Now, if there's a way you can, use your drive home, maybe it's by driving in silence, something along those lines to help you wind down. But we want to try to do whatever we can to prevent sitting in our vehicles, using that time to wind down, especially if I'm parking on a street or in a public space. Let's maybe start that wind down before. So now once I'm parked, I can gather my stuff and go ahead and do what I got to do after that. But yeah, sitting in these vehicles, especially with the vehicle running, that's just something that's highly preventable to, make sure we prevent any type of vehicle crime taking place.
Okay, thank you very much. And then I'm going to ask a personal question. My father is legally blind, and many times we go out and he's wearing those dark glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And I have observed people lurking around. I try to give him a little space while shopping, but I've observed people looking around. And so I usually yell out, "Daddy," really loud. And I've seen people, it scares them.
Mm.
So for those individuals who might wear those dark glasses or have other types of um, devices to help them navigate their daily lives, what type of guidance, what would you advise them to do so that they can have a sense of independence and shop alone?
So for situations such as that, to give them to give them that independence, we would do things such as keep note of the valuables they're taking with them if they're going to be out in public. So if cash is something, right? I'm not going to have maybe over more than $100 in cash, depending on what I'm looking to go do. I'm gonna lessen that and maybe only take $40 or $60 in cash. In regards to electronics or anything of high value, if I'm going to a place by myself, maybe I have a really fancy watch that I like to wear. I don't necessarily need to wear that watch because I'm only going to the grocery store or doing something where it's not needed or warranted. So keeping in mind little small checklist things such as that. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to carry a lot of cash. I'm not going to wear anything that's of high value, because nothing is preventable at all, but we could always take steps to help minimize. So let me do as many things as possible to minimize the chances of something taking place. And I would say things of that sort. Keep in mind of what I'm taking on me that's valuable. If I'm going to be having cash, not having so much, only having a small amount, small things and such.
Okay, and so I'm going to build on that point, something you said that was of interest to me. Where do you keep the cash? Because a lot of people dig in their pockets or they dig. Some people, older people in particular, sometimes keep cash in their sock.
Yeah.
Under their foot. That means you've got to disrobe in a public
Yeah.
place, people watching your actions.
Mm-hmm.
Where might someone keep their cash so
So
that they're not seen?
the best place is going to be in one of your front pockets.
Ah,
If you do carry a wallet, I know sometimes with older individuals, they might have, men might have a lot in their wallets. Now your wallet is all big, bulky, and fat. So if I can help you reduce and minimize the size of that, so that way you go into your wallet, you don't have many things, and you can kind of move, on that sort. If I have on a jacket, does my jacket have an inner pocket where I can just easily reach in, take out what I need, and go about my day? I carry a small wallet like this, so I just have a few cards and stuff in there. Is this individual willing to let me get them a more compact, updated style of a wallet? Right. And that way I'm keeping my cash close to me. Avoid keeping things in the back pockets, because somebody could brush past you and reach in the back pocket. Or, I remember back in the day, if you had cash, depending on how you may have sat, that money could rise up. And now it's a $20 bill sticking out your back pocket. Somebody could try to reach and pull that money from you. So, keeping it in the front pockets. If I have a jacket or something with a close inner pocket, in a position as such.
okay. Thank you. We have a comment in the chat here, and it reads, I have a wallet that looks like a sandwich. So it doesn't look, and that's pretty cool. So it doesn't look so obvious. It looks like a kid's toy. I'd love to see that. So whomever shared that with us, maybe you can share that wallet. Our next question in the chat asks, how do we prevent home break-ins?
So for home break-ins, one, in today's day and age, you have Ring doorbell cameras, you have Vivint, you have these camera systems that can be installed around your home or wherever it is that you live. The Ring doorbell cameras go on the front. You have options to put the cameras near rear doors, garages, and other places. Many of times you can view the cameras from, your phone or whatever device. If an alarm system is something that you can having an alarm system on your home will be a way to prevent those break-ins. And some of the non-cost ways to prevent that is, after a certain time of day, close up those blinds. Here in the city, we drive around at night sometimes, and individuals just have windows surely open, and you see a big 90-inch TV that they just have going on in their living room. You can see everything that's going on. So being mindful of, okay, it's getting dark out. I close my blinds. The sun is down. I don't need everybody being able to easily see inside my home. That's a free way where you can prevent a home breaking, because now nobody can see in your house at night and see you got a fancy TV. You have all this other stuff going on. Anybody who might live in Washington, D.C., the city offers a camera rebate program where they will reimburse you up to a certain amount if you buy a home camera system. So, that's something that you can do as well, is depending on where you live, there are programs out there, whether it's through police agencies or any type of government agency or non-government agency. They'll have programs where you can buy these home camera systems and they'll reimburse you up to a certain amount. So now you're able to get that. If you know you're going out of town and going to be gone for a few days, could you put a brief stop on your mail, or just have your mail diverted? Or if there's somebody that you trust that can come by and pick up your mail and things of that sort. So if you have a home where your mailbox is easily accessible, the mail isn't piling up as a, identifying factor. If I'm going to be gone for a couple of days, I might just leave one small light on to create the appearance that I'm home. So there's different things that can be done to, help prevent any type of home break-ins. But as I mentioned, from what I see is here in the city, especially, is individuals just having a plain view inside their home, and you can see TVs, everything that's going on. So when it gets dark and that sun goes down, close up your blinds.
Okay. And then I'm sorry I have to ask this question, but if in fact we are met with a crime, carjacking, theft, any of the sort, what should we do? How should a person, you're scared, but if you can grab a hold of your wits, what should a person do?
Immediately call 911. No matter what happens, type of crime is something that can be traumatic, but the moment you're able to gather yourself, I want to try to call 911, because what happened is still fresh in my mind. And I want to be able to give that information to the officers as fast as possible. Even if from whether it's something small or something large, let's not hesitate, because those small things can sometimes lead up to much larger issues. But if anybody were to ever be victim of a crime, which we hope not, the moment you can, call 911. If there's anything that you can remember about the individual who committed that crime toward or against you, just try to keep that ingrained in your head, because it's going to be something that sticks out. I know, for example, one thing people like is shoes. So if somebody does something, you can remember, I remember these green shoes, right? That's going to be something big to help those officers when they're out searching for that individual. So call 911 as soon as you can, and anything that sticks out that you can remember, just try to keep it going in your mind to be able to give that information to officers.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Our next question in the chat asks, what type of bag should I use with a manual or electronic wheelchair when traveling to the mall or when going to the mall or traveling?
So in that sense, if it's the manual, you have to use both hands to movement. I would definitely recommend, whether it's the waist satchel or crossbody, or if it's something that you're able to keep in close proximity to you, that somebody can just try to, in a sneaky manner, take that bag from you. Any type of bag where you can have it in close proximity is what I would recommend. And in that instance, I would recommend one of the ones that go across the crossbody like that. Those come in different sizes. So if there's one that, you know, is big enough or small enough to fit everything that you need, whatever necessities, I would say go with one of those.
Okay. And then so Officer Lewis, even though it's cold outside here at least here on the East Coast, many of us walk for our
Mhm.
exercise. Should we change our route? And even in changing our routes, should we carry something with us to protect ourselves? A stick, some mace, or something. What should we do when we walk? Just for exercise, or maybe walking
Mhm.
our dogs?
So if that's something you do, I like to, you know, walk, and that's something I do personally. And you don't necessarily have to change your route, but know multiple routes, because I can start out taking one way, and as I'm making my way back, there could be some sort of disruption, or I may look at something and say, yeah, I don't want to walk down there. What's my alternative? Do I have another route to get back to my home or whatever point I may have started from? So just know multiple routes. You know, you may like to walk one in particular more frequently, and that's okay. But in the event something were to happen, do I know multiple routes to leave this area to get where I need to get? Just having multiple routes in mind. And that's something I would recommend for anybody who uses public transportation to and from home. Then there may be that one night you come home and the street lights are normally all on, but this particular night, you know, this block you walk down to get to your home, they're all off. What's my next step, right? I don't want to walk down this dark street. Do I know an alternative that will still get me there safely? So that's something that I would recommend, is just knowing multiple routes, being mindful of the areas may you may frequently walk your dog or just do your exercise, because if you know your area, then you'll know exactly when, you know, something may be out of the ordinary.
Okay. And so with that, as I'm walking my dog or I'm just exercising, should I keep those earbuds off? Should I just pay attention to the street? Should I have music on? What's your thought about that?
So if you're going to use earbuds, I'll recommend, if they're the wireless AirPods people use, instead of having them both, maybe only having them one. If you prefer the over the head, I would say, you know, not have the volume extremely loud so you can kind of be aware of your surroundings. Now, the overhead ones are a little bit more tricky because they cover the ears and then it muffle. So that's lessening your sense of hearing to a degree.
Okay. And so I'm still here on this walk. Am I carrying something with me? My father always tells me, take something with you.
Oh, yes. Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, if you have that, you know, that pepper spray you take with you, if you have like a walking stick you want to use for self-defense, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So thank you for
Oh, and also too, if you can walk in a group, right?
ah,
You know, they're saying that there's strength in numbers. That's actually a true statement. So maybe you want to start a walking group of a few individuals, and there's about 5 of you. Even if there's only 2 of you, you know, doing something within the group is also helpful as well.
so is there a better time? I mean, is there a better time of day to walk, even in a group?
Yeah. So if you can avoid having to do it during those darker periods of the day. Now, some people are, you know, early birds, and in the summertime, it's not as bad because by the time you look 6 o'clock, the sun is up and there's light outside. But during this time of year or those colder months where the days are shorter, if you can, you know, do it before it gets darker out, I would definitely recommend that. If you have the chance to do it maybe midday where there's a lot more vehicle traffic or foot traffic, that'd be a recommendation as well.
And I'm going to stop here and I'm going to ask our audience to keep those questions coming in the chat. Um, Officer Lewis is taking his time to be with us this afternoon, and we're really grateful for that. So we don't want to miss this opportunity. And then someone just said in the chat, I just made up my mind to put a nice stick in my car and leave it. And so thank you for that. So Officer Lewis, we want to respect your time, but before we jump off this webinar, I wanted to ask you, what would you like us to know and during this holiday season to protect our safety
Yeah.
in this holiday season and as we approach the new year? What would you like us to know, and what actions would you like us to take?
So most importantly, right, you, the individual, are more important than any material item. car, clothes, anything. You, the individual, are more important than any material item. So in the event something were to happen, somebody's give me the purse, give me this, give me that, give it up. Because why? That item can be replaced. The item can be replaced. We cannot be. So that's number one. Don't put up that fight to no. If they want the phone, let them take the phone. You can cancel it, cut it off. You can get a new one, right? So just keep that in mind, is that you as the individual are always more important than any material item.
Okay.
Secondly, let's not hesitate to call 911 when needed, right? Let's not think that, oh, this is just a small matter. The police have bigger things they're worried about or handling. If you need to call 911, pick up that phone and call 911. And as I mentioned earlier, just constantly be aware of your surroundings and what's going on. Let's not be out and about doing our daily activities, and let's not be delusional or less aware of what's taking place, especially if we have certain routines. Know the place that you visit frequently, know your routes home, and know when something is out of the ordinary. So when you now bring that to the forefront of your mind, you make yourself aware of that, you'll begin to see different things like, hey, I'm noticing now that every time I come home, or at this time, I see the same person walking their dog at 6 o'clock, or I'm noticing that, there's been construction going on this particular path for a couple weeks now. I need to keep that in mind, that one day this whole street could be closed off. So just those small things that, will just really enhance everything that you do on a regular basis.
And before we go, I'm just going to sneak one in. Would that
Mhm.
also include unmarked vehicles?
As far as,
In your community, sometimes I've seen unmarked white vehicles that very well may be associated with a business,
mhm.
even a startup business, but they don't have any decal insignia, and they're just kind of roaming around.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If that's something that you realize and you're kind of like, oh, this is a little weird. I keep seeing this one particular van with the same driver, oh, just constantly circling. That's something that I would really pay attention to. And if you feel like, hey, I need to get this on the police's radar, when you do that, the key is trying to provide as much details as possible, because walking down the street or driving isn't a crime, but or walking or driving, I want to say, it's not suspicious, right? The suspicion behind that is 911. I've noticed this particular vehicle circle my block 5 times within the last 10 minutes. Could you guys send an officer out to just check the area? Because now that will allow officers to be able to just make contact with the individual by simply saying, hey, how you doing? How's your night going? That may now deter that person from looking to do whatever they might have planned. So I'm glad you brought that up. Whenever you are going to call 911, whenever you want to report something, just try to give as much detail as possible. If you noticing individuals, like I said, if they're walking down the block, that's not suspicious. That's not a crime. But if you notice them walking down the block, pulling on door handles, looking inside people's windows, that's suspicious behavior. That's behavior that could be noted. And you want to say, this individual has been walking down the block. I've witnessed them pull on 5 door handles, 4 door handles, whatever it may be. I witnessed them, peeking into people's open windows. These are behaviors that we can notice to keep ourselves safe, keep our neighbors safe. And these are things that you can do. And you can call the police, but you got to just be sure to specify, right? Be sure to give those. That's an important piece of information that'll help an officer big time.
Okay. Well, Officer Lewis, thank you. We're at 2 o'clock, and if there aren't any other questions, let's see. Someone just quickly says, also, when receiving cash in any store, I keep my eyes open, pick up the vibes from being watched, and when I leave, certain cars leave, and I make a habit not to turn into my destination when I see the same car behind me. I try to lose them.
So yeah, that's somebody right there who has taken a level up and being aware of their surroundings and what's going on. And I would say the same thing. If you're somebody who frequently uses an ATM, I would be mindful about the time of day I'm using that ATM. Right. Let's not go use the ATM 8, 9 o'clock at night, or when the bank is closed and you got to use the one inside the brick wall or just inside the vestibule. Maybe I want to wait till the next day to really grab that cash. So yeah, you know, that's something good. I'm glad somebody pointed that out as well.
Okay, well, I promise this is going to be the last one because I think everyone on this call should hear this as we also plan our holiday shopping, grocery shopping, and so forth. I know here in the District of Columbia, several grocery stores have been met with the loose um, eight, machines that you put your card in, and the cards can be easily scammed or replicated, right? And then the grocery store is a great place to get cash. Can I ask you to please stress the mindfulness of we need to take when using those scanners for our cards and getting money
Mhm.
from the grocery store? Any last guidance on that as we plan these holiday meals?
Oh yeah, so don't be afraid to, like, so for example, if I'm going to the grocery store and I'm using the machine to enter my card, don't be afraid to touch it, tug at it to make sure there's no, you know, false covering on it to make it appear as the regular machine. Like, you know, that's you wanting to safeguard your money. So I know if I go to 7-Eleven, for example, I'll just kind of wiggle the machine to make sure that the top plate isn't loose and coming off and somebody didn't try to place a card skimming device over it. So yeah, no, you have the right to do that as long as you're not looking to intentionally damage something. You could, you know, give it a little push or give it a little pull to make sure that, all right, this is the actual machine and I'm good from there.
Okay. Officer Lewis, it is 2 o'clock. We want to thank you for your time and thank you very much for your service. We hope this will not be a one-off. Angela, there is a survey forthcoming after the webinar, yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so if our audience could take a moment to fill out the survey, we would greatly appreciate it. We'd love to hear your thoughts about this webinar and any other future webinars you'd like us to host. And to Officer Lewis, again, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And we wish you and your family and colleagues a happy holiday season. And to our audience, thank you for joining us this afternoon and wish you a good day.
Good day.
My
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Officer Lewis.
All right,
We'll
I'll
be
see you
talking
guys
to you.
soon.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Stay
Bye.
safe. Thank
Stay
you.
safe. Yes.
Bye-bye.